Hi guys. So I'm uploading the video to our second class, which is our milk canning class. But I wasn't really happy with the way the video had started. So I want to touch base with you guys one-on-one on things that you might have missed in that first video. So Kathy and I had started, which by the way, Kathy, thank you very much for allowing us to use your home to can the milk and to do the video. It was a wonderful time. It was great fellowship, great conversation. So thank you. We started with clean jars. We used pint jars in this video. You can use quart jars if that's what you choose to do. It's not a big deal. And the processing time and every step is exactly the same, except, you're going to get obviously more product. So if you have a bigger family or require a larger amount, I would definitely recommend that you use the quart. But we started with clean jars, clean lids, and clean rings. Once we got everything clean and set up, I used whole milk today. You can use, sorry, there's a little fruit fly flying around. It's driving me crazy. You can use any milk you'd like. It does not matter. Just remember that whatever milk you use, it's going to process one step above. So if you use a 1% milk, it's going to process to more of a 2% milk. If you use a whole milk, it's going to process more of a evaporated milk. So just keep that in mind. So you always want to remember that it's going to go one step up. So we poured the milk into the clean jars, up to the 1-inch headspace. Your kitchen, your rules, I typically only go to the 1 inch. I don't go above. I never go lower. And that's only because I want to not have the pitting or the pinholing issue that we have where that black stuff forms on your seal. So in my experience, in my personal opinion, if I do the 1 inch, I never have an issue, and I haven't had an issue. So I typically will only go in anything up to the 1 inch headspace. We will talk about that in class when we do it, the milk on Saturday. But I just want to make sure that everyone knew that we only want to go to the inch, okay? And then I debubbled. And you have different opinions on the debubbling, especially when it's all liquid. I do it anyway. I just go ahead and do debubble, because the more you do the steps, the safer you are. And that's a big concern that Kathy and I have, is that we want to implement every step, every time, all the time, no matter what you're canning, okay? So we did the debubble. As the bubbles came up, obviously, the liquid went down. So we want to top it off, which we did. And then we put our rings and our seals on fingertip tight only. And the reason why it's only fingertip tight is because you need that heat and that steam to release from the jar. If you have that cranked down to the point to where nothing can come out, then you're going to run the risk of your lid buckling, and it's detrimental to the process. So I would only say fingertip tight. We then, since it was cold milk, we then put it into a cold canner with cold water. We are trying to avoid thermal shock. So if you're shocking the system, per se, and you're putting cold jars and cold milk into a hot canner, you're going to run the risk of cracking your jars. We don't want that. So start cold, fill it up, and you turn your heat on, and then you're going to heat that up gradually. You don't want to go high heat right away. You want to just kind of get it up to the steaming point and then gradually turn your heat up. Once it gets to a rolling boil, that's when you start your timer for 1 hour on the canning of the milk. 1 hour, rolling boil. Once that time is done, you're going to turn the heat off. You're going to allow the jars to sit in that canner for at least 5 minutes, especially with the water bath. With a pressure canner, if you decide to do it this way with the pressure canner, obviously things are going to be off. You're not going to do an hour in a pressure canner. You're not going to, you're going to wait for that pressure to come all the way down to 0, which could take longer than 5 minutes. Obviously would take longer than 5 minutes. But we're talking about water bath only. So you're going to turn the heat off. You're going to let the jar sit in your canner for 5 minutes only. We don't want to do any more, and we don't want to do any less. So 5 minutes, then you want to pull them out safely and lay them on a rack or a towel to cool for 12 to 24 hours. You do not want to cover them with a towel. We do not want flat sour, and that flat sour only happens when you let your jar set into a warm area for too long, or you cover it with a towel and it can't cool down at its time. You're just kind of holding it in, and even though that's going to be safe to consume, it is not going to taste very pleasant. So we don't want that. We all work very, very, very hard for our money and for our food and our time to do this, that we do not want flat sour to ruin what we've made. So once the 12 to 24 hours is complete, we're going to take our ring off. And I'm going to show you. We're going to take our ring off, right? This is our ring. We're going to take our ring off, and then we're going to do this. If that jar will hold by the seal only, see, I've only got it by the seal, then your seal is good. No worries. We're not going to store it with the ring on, okay? We're going to take the ring off, and we're going to store it this way. And the reason why we do not want to store it with the ring on is because the moisture is under this metal ring. And it's going to rust over time, and it's going to be very difficult to get off your jars. So I do not recommend, and Paul does not recommend that we store them with the ring. So just take the ring off after the 12 to 24 hours and store it just like this. Okay? I would recommend that you write what type of milk it is, when you canned it, and cool, dry, dark place if you have it. I would recommend, if you do not have a consistent room in your house to where the temperature, I would say 60. I am fortunate I have a basement, and that's where my canning room is, where I store things. If not, put it under the bed. It's dark, it's cooler under the bed, and it stays a pretty consistent temperature. Or put it in a, put it in a closet. But that's going to, for the most part, guarantee the product is going to be good for a long, long time. So I think I've covered everything. I wasn't very happy with that video. It covered, the basis of it. I'm learning the videos. So just bear with me. So I hope this helps you. We'll cover, again, everything in class, but we just want to make sure that you are set up for success when you get home from class and you want to do this at home, and that you have the personal one-on-one videos of step-by-step how to do it. Okay? All right. Have a good evening. Thank you, guys.
Okay, your red dot disappeared.
Hello, guys. Okay, guys, I'm not sure where that video cut off. So this is what we've done. We've checked our jars, our lids, our seals. We've made sure there's no cracks or chips out of our jars. We've added cold milk to pint jars. 1 gallon got us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Is that right? 3, 6, 8. So we've debubbled.
And your math came out right, because 2 pints would make a quart, a gallon would be 4 quarts.
So this is the debubbler. Just doing it this way. Again, it's going to drop. It's always, when you get the bubbles out, the liquid is going to drop. So we want to make sure that we have our 1-inch headspace. So I have just a little bit left in here, so we're going to top it off.
This one may be a little splash. I think the others look pretty good if I'm reading the 1-inch the way you are.
Yeah. Okay, I think we're good. There's still a little bit left, but that's okay. So we're never, ever, ever going to use vinegar to wipe our rims in our with milk because it will cause it to curdle. So we're just going to use water. And this is, again, this is a step that is done every single time you can, whether it's pressure canning or water bath canning or oven canning or whatever. You always want to make sure your jars are wiped down. I'm a little anal and I go down below into the thread of the jar too, just to be sure.
Because if you've ever had a lid and cap seal fail, you've done that work for an expletive rather than Happy Meals.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so she's cleaned the top and done a little bit around the whole rim. Then we'll get to progress to lids and rings.
I got that one already, right? This is probably one of the easiest things you can. So again, we did not heat our rings or our lids. It's no longer necessary. And then we only want to go fingertip tight. We don't want to go more than that because the reason why we do that is that way the heat or the steam can release from the jars from under the lid and it doesn't buckle your lid. So just fingertip tight. You don't have to tighten it really, 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 really tight. Oh, I got one off, so we'll have to get one more out.
I'll get that. Might be a little less damp than the other, but they were rinsed earlier.
Okay, yeah. Go.
Oops.
All right, so then I'll have you put that in the canner and then I'll video you doing that. Maybe. So I'm going to switch you around here. Remember, this is all cold.
Tell them how much water was put in the base of it. Now, what do we do for number 8? That's a 7 bath.
Oh, well, that's okay. All right, and so now we're going to fill it up with the cold water, and we're going to start it off at a just heating up the canner, not high heat, just slowly bringing it up to a heat, and then once it starts boiling, I'll bring you back. Okay, guys, I might have turned it down just a little bit too low, but this is basically your rolling boil. It needs to go a little bit higher than that. But it's not a simmer, it's a rolling boil. And we're going to let that go for about an hour. And processing time will be done. We'll take them out, let them sit for 12 to 24, and check our seals, and we should be good. So we'll bring you back when that process, when it's time. Okay, guys, I might have turned it down just a little bit too low, but this is basically your rolling boil. It needs to go a little bit higher than that. But it's not a simmer, it's a rolling boil. And we're going to let that go for about an hour. and processing time will be done. We'll take them out, let them sit for 12 to 24, and check our seals, and we should be good. So we'll bring you back when that process, when it's time.